Dead Space 3 is kind of the culmination of what we've been building up in Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2 and Extraction, and it's the story of our main character, Isaac Clarke, as he actually hunts down and finds the secret of the necromorph invasion and really, answers a lot of questions that a lot of our previous fans have had and brings in a new audience to kind of appreciate this, creepy world that we've created in this frozen ice planet. And as I said, Isaac will be in there. We'll be fighting his necromorphs. There'll be human enemies, and he's going to be, have his a whole crew with him as they discover kind of the secret of the whole necromorph invasion. What we showed, we showed at E3 with our big announce and our big reveal. Like, we showed a lot of the new things that we're working on, but it's not just about like kind of these bigger features that are kind of new to the franchise. We're still being true to what our game is about, and it's always been has that kind of creepy feel, and it's been about ambience and survival horror and about all of the kind of tense moments that you have in dark corridor gameplay. We're absolutely going to have that, and as you can see if you take a look at some of the other levels that we have that we are actually showing now, you can see that kind of tight corridor gameplay and zero-G space and just the isolation that you feel. So I don't think that I think fans of the franchise will be very happy when they actually get the game in their hands. From the hardcore fans might remember, like the marker actually fictionally kind of causes this dementia effect on people that are alive, before obviously reanimates the dead, but also that was kind of the root of where Isaac was having those visions and seeing his ex-girlfriend who has died and all of that. So the marker actually creates this, through its electromagnetic pulse, creates dementia in people that are alive. And so obviously there are going to be markers on in Dead Space 3, and we're going to have a lot of the similar types of dementia effects. I mean, it's not the same style, not rehashing what we had done before, but with the marker comes that kind of dementia, and has psychological impacts on the players. And the way that we like to do that in our storytelling and just in the kind of the way that the levels are set up is that we do have a lot of that creepy ambiance, when you have that tight corridors, when you hear those sounds, when you wondering like what's real, what's not, is it the character's perception, is it actually something that's going to come out and get you, or what. There's a lot of different techniques that we use, and it's just like things that a lot of tried and true, of course, monsters jumping out of the closet type of thing, but there's also just moments where you look and you see scribbling on the wall, you see visions of things that may or may not be there, but all of that is still going to be evident in Dead Space 3, and so that's how we're going to be continuing that kind of fiction. It's all going to work towards the story. So, I mean, that's one of the awesome things that we're doing with Dead Space 2 that we're really excited about, is that we're taking that to the next level with the environment. So, as you mentioned in Dead Space 1, we're kind of more, it was almost exclusively on the ship interiors. Dead Space 2, we branched out around the sprawl. You got to joyride a little bit out in zero-G in space. But for Dead Space 3, like, we're going to have a lot of different set pieces. And what you've seen so far has been on, the ice planet. And obviously, you get a lot of that kind of harsh environment and blizzard setting and, very, it's kind of isolated feeling that it's not a very friendly place to be. And of course you have way stations and heat shacks and various things that you go on throughout the ice planet, but there's definitely a big portion of the game that's also going to be in on derelict ships, and there's going to be a lot of space travel, like where you go outside again in zero-G in space, and there's other settings that I can't really get into, but will definitely be something that we've never done before, and I think that a lot of fans will appreciate. Well, definitely resources play a huge factor, and like the entire metagame is built around, and in any kind of action, survival horror, any kind of game that is a key component to it. So we were doing a lot of things this time around to really advance what we've done in the past. So we have a big announcement coming about the weapons and kind of a whole system based around the weapons. I can't go into too much detail about that, but it really opens up the door about for resource management, how you would use your resources, how you could you could probably use your imagination as to which direction that could go, but it's a big component to our game this time around, and it's going to be, you're going to find a lot more uses and a lot more player choice in that regard. added a lot of enhancements to some of the existing mechanics. So like stuff like TK, like, you know, we've always had the TK ability where you can grab things, throw them, and now we're actually adding torque ability to TK, so you can actually grab things and rotate them and apply force and, you know, and impact on the objects that you grab. And so that's really cool to use for combat, but also for puzzles. And that's, you know, going to play a big part into, like, you know, the puzzle gameplay and adding another layer into that, which is really cool. And another big thing that we're doing is in the player movement itself. Like, we've added, you know, some evade and rolls and dodge and a crouch mode and the cover system that you guys got to see a little bit of. So that's a big, you know, shift in, you know, just kind of the mobility of the player. We feel that we've done it in a really cool way that maintains kind of the Dead Space, you know, feel. So it's not going to be like all of a sudden a completely different type of game, but when there is, you know, stuff that feels like you should be able to get into cover, and when you have certain fights and, you know, boss fights or things like that, when you're trying to dodge and, you know, get away from things, you'll have that ability. And I think it just makes the character feel more fluid. But we've also, you know, we did pay attention, you know, he's heavily armored, you know, like we have a lot, you know, you see the Isaac suits, you know, they're not something that you would be able to just, you know, completely roll around like some ninja. So it's not something that is game breaking in any way, but we feel that it really enhanced kind of that mobility, and we're pretty excited about that on the player mechanics side. You guys got a glimpse of some of the larger, you know, enemies that we have, and some of the mini bosses and bosses, you know, the snow beast guy. Like, I mean, I would not call that being on the offensive when you have a giant, you know, snow monster chasing after you with, you know, tentacles bearing through everything that you know is in the environment. You know, but that's obviously, you know, a big epic fight. But there's a lot of different things. Our infection sequence has been, you know, and like the way that our enemies get infected has completely changed for Dead Space 3. So previously we had that, you know, kind of infector guy that flew around and infected corpses kind of slowly one by one. And this time we actually have a swarm infector who is a little swarm creature, and a lot of them can come out all at once, and they can infect multiple corpses at the same time. And there's different types of infections that can take place. I can't get too much into that, but like there are different things where you can very quickly become, you know, outnumbered, and very quickly, like, you know, understand that you are definitely on the defensive, and it's not something that you're just barreling through. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are in place that make it, you know, you need to figure out how to get out of this situation. I mean, honestly, I love the co-op. I mean, I know, you know, a lot of people have, you know, different views on it. Like, I think the way that we've integrated it, and just like being able to play Dead Space with a buddy and like have it like kind of seamlessly in there, where the story is really coming together, and you get to get these more kind of you know, cinematic moments and story moments that you play with your partner, and you don't feel like it's just kind of, you know, a co-op mode, is really cool. Because that's what I like to do, you know, when I'm at home. Like, if I'm playing with, you know, I love a game that comes out that'll, you know, allow me to play with my buddy, and just like being able to see that and be still in the Dead Space world, and like just kind of take down that terror together, like, and have that with your friend, is something that I love, and like that's one of my favorite things. Obviously, we try to make sure, you know, and we'll have ways that we can, you know, tell, you know, people caught up to the story that haven't played it. But for those that want to really get like a really strong understanding of it, I think if you go back and play Dead Space 1, I would pay attention to kind of like the whole Mercer dialogue, and like, you know, at the tail end, I think it was in chapter 5, when he's making the hunter, and like he starts talking a little bit about like how he feels about the unitology, and like, and just the kind of necromorph, you know, his theories on what the necromorph evolution is, and it's kind of you know, the whole unitologist ethos about what that is. And then hearing later in the game in chapter 10, you have Dr. Kine that is kind of explaining the hive mind, like the final boss, what, you know, what his function was and what his purpose was, as another kind of cool story point that I think people will give a little bit more background into some things that we're doing in Dead Space 3. And of course, in Dead Space 2, you know, anything that's going around in the marker lore, like the marker test labs, you know, when that's in chapter 10 on DS2, like just there's a couple of logs in there that kind of go into detail a little bit more about like how, you know, how the discovery of the markers were made by the, you know, by humans for the first time, how that like kind of branched out, and like what different, you know, the government is doing to kind of why they're interested in it, and why, you know, the unitologists are interested in it. So I would just stick to the marker lore, and I think that would be like something that's really kind of would provide a little bit more backstory to those that are interested in that. We don't try to take a feature and say we want to get this feature in, whether it be co-op or multiplayer or, you know, some sort of, you know, horde mode or anything like that. Like, we look at what makes sense for the game, what would evolve this franchise further, what takes this franchise to the next level, like how, you know, what are the fans looking for to enjoy. And it made sense, and, you know, for Dead Space 3 to go in that direction. For Army of Two, I mean, it's been their core tenet from day one. You know, it's like, it's all, I mean, I think they were actually one of the first, you know, co-op games on you know, the next gen console, or current gen as we can call it now. But, like, you know, that's been the heart of what they're doing. So, you know, for them, that's awesome, and I think for us it makes a lot of sense too. So that's why we're excited about it. But yeah, I think it's really more about what makes sense for the game. So Dead Space 3 is going to be released in February 2013 on Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. And for Gamescom, you can look forward to a big unveiling of one of the key features that I have to dance around a little bit. So that will be coming soon, about a week and a half. So that'll be awesome.